The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, welcome everybody to our first of a series of webinars called the Great Debate Webinar Series, presented by Social Media Monthly. My name is Bob Fine. I'm editor and founder of the magazine, and will be moderating today's webinar. Today's topic is the true nature of social media ROI, and our two debaters, who will be our regulars moving forward, are Sam Fiorella and Judi Samuels. Sam is the co-author of Influence Marketing: How to Create, Manage, and Measure Brand Influencers in Social Media Marketing. He's also a partner in Sensei Marketing, a customer experience consultancy with over 20 years experience in sales and marketing. Judi Samuels, after 14 years of experiential social and digital marketing, communications, and branding strategy, experience with brands such as Fairmont Hotels and Resorts, the Canadian Tourism Commission, Microsoft, and Much Music. Judi has become a recognized expert in the field on emotional marketing. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going to start with the first statement: what is ROI? And we do have a number of attendees now on. If you have any questions, you can submit them. There is a question section in your panel window, or if you have a direct message, you can send it via chat to me if you're having any audio or video problems. We're going to start off with Judi on this first statement. Judi, go ahead.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Bob, and thanks for having us. It's kind of exciting to be in the inaugural debate, and Sam and I like to go head-to-head quite frequently, usually on Wednesday evenings, but at other times as well, so this will be a lot of fun. So this is a really hot topic, of course. Everybody wants to figure out what the ROI of social media is, and I've been having this debate with a few people lately, and I think it's important that the first thing we do is put some definition around what ROI really means. And ROI, of course, in business is really an accounting term. It's a balance sheet term, and there's this formula, and this is a simplistic way to view the formula, but there are certainly a lot of different components that affect it, but the short and long of it is that it's revenue minus cost over cost of whatever project or asset is being purchased or brought into the organization. But different functions view ROI a little bit differently. For research and development, for example, they actually have to forecast what the potential ROI might be. So estimating what the likely unit price is that the market would accept against the cost of time and resources forecasted per unit sold. So that gives you a little bit of an idea on what the return on investment rate might be for that particular project. And in other departments and other functions, and in particular in PR and marketing, ROI has kind of become this intangible, these things that benefit the business, but can be shown as a series of different things, either as revenue, specifically around marketing functions and marketing activities that will drive sales, cost of time or labor saved, the value of awareness and reach, also things like cover story and how you're viewed in the press. In the end, return on investment it's a term that is used differently in the different functions of the business. It has to be established top down. It has to be, what does the boardroom want to see as return on investment? How do they expect that to come across from the different functions? And as a marketer and as a lover of languages, in the English language, if we just took the term return on investment, it would literally mean anything that you get in return for whatever investment you put in, whether that investment is time or dollars, and whether that return is physical revenue and profit, or something else that is beneficial, ideally beneficial to the business. So that's my view of ROI.
Thank you, Judi. Sam?
Well, I mean, there's not going to be much of a debate if we, I guess, argue what is the definition of ROI. It doesn't matter what department you're looking at. So where I will agree with Judi is ROI is ROI. There is no other definition of ROI. And I think this is where I'll also disagree. We know what the calculation of return on investment is. My issue is really the interpretation of it when you start applying ROI to other departments or other business functions. And I think this is why in social media in particular, but I think the same argument could be had with other silos within the organization, is ROI is a return on investment. When you take a look at marketing and social media, and or as Judi said, in research and development, in marketing, it's these intangibles, that we say so many of these positive or intangible efforts or intangible connections equal a positive return. That's fine, but if you cannot fit it into that calculation at the top of the screen, if you can't measure it that way, it isn't ROI. All departments or any type of supporting business function are contributors to that measurement. So what is the revenue and what is the cost? You can contribute to revenue or you can contribute to costs. And that's, I think, where we veer off and why this issue of ROI in social media has become such a hotly debated topic. Because everybody keeps trying to say, this is what ROI is, and now this is what it is in social media. Return on relationship, return on engagement. There's all these other terms. I'm not arguing the value of humanizing a brand or of building relationship and the positive impact that that will have, or the positive effect that that will have on your bottom line. There's certainly correlations there. I just don't think we can measure it to ROI. You have to take a look at what are those efforts and how do they contribute to your revenue or to your costs. So I think we have to separate ROI as a business measurement and other metrics as a marketing measurement. So that's my 2 cents on the issue. Judi, any thoughts from you?
No, I mean, we really wanted to use this particular starting point to establish, common ground around what ROI was for the conversation. And I think, to Sam's point, return on investment has a definition that's very clear in the accounting world, and whether we will solve today how return on investment
in the business world, it doesn't have to be accounting only. The business in general. ROI is ROI. There is no other. It's not subject to interpretation based on what department you work for.
Well, I mean, I think it depends on the organization, because I think if you go to, even if you went to Coca-Cola and you went to IBM, they would define their ROI by function in a different way based on that function. I agree that at its core there is absolutely a purist point of view, and we may need to return to that definition to make sure that we are establishing the right measurements for the right activities that will drive to the right profit number or profit estimate for a company in the long run. But I think there's a lot of work to be done before we can return to that core definition, because as it stands right now, there are a lot of bigger brands out there than we can kind of list off here who are viewing ROI in different ways in those different functions. At the end of the day, at the end of the year, when the balance sheet and the annual reports come out, ROI only means one thing.
Well, and I think that's the point. And I don't know that well, you know what, I shouldn't say that. I do agree with you. I do know that there's a lot of businesses that are beginning to interpret ROI in different ways. But I think that's really a function of marketers or heads of other departments who can't accurately measure what they do to the bottom line, or who just don't know how or can't and are trying to justify their efforts to say, well, here's, it's intangible, and we need to look at it in a different ways to make it easier for a CFO to understand, this is why you need to approve my, $800,000 budget for this, even though I can't show you an $8 million revenue associated to this investment. And I can't imagine that argument lasts very long in any serious organization, because as you said, at the end of the day, when it comes down to have we made money, have we not made money, when you've not made money in particular, the CFO is going to start to dissect who spent money where. Right. And I think that we're going to get back to that definition pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I think that's why we're having this conversation. I think it's a hot topic. Everybody's asking what's the ROI of social, and I think other questions are coming up. What's the ROI of mobile? What's the ROI of putting up a billboard on the Gardner Expressway? There's a lot of questions that we need to answer around return on investment, and you go back 15, 20 years where it was cut and dry. I am putting $100 in and I want $300 out, period, the end. That's how it's going to work. And if you don't do it, those projects are cut and those investments are cut. But what has happened, I think, over the course of the past 10, 15 years, this advent of social and digital, this reconnection of humanity, really, which is now challenging people, not just marketers, people across the board, to justify what those human relations are doing to the bottom line, and whether or not that value is going to be seen, in this quarter, in this fiscal year, or over the long run.
And I think that maybe we shouldn't spend any more time on this. I think let's agree, because I was going to jump in and say that even with that argument, we're going down the wrong path, because nobody said anything about what's the return on investment when it comes to billboards, right? We all know that it was you can't really measure the direct impact of a billboard to ROI, but nobody ever criticized that, or magazine ads for that matter. But I think now that social media has given us the opportunity to track more accurately the response to this type of advertising or this type of communication. And because of that, all of a sudden we have a measure of clicks. We know how many people have viewed something, or how many people have shared, or how many people, and those metrics, that we're gathering, are now being mistaken for ROI, or are being interpreted as ROI. Right. And so I think the technology that we have available today in terms of measurement is taking us down the wrong path.
Well, so let's take.
And I mean, we do need to. Yeah.
Go ahead, Judi. Finish your rebuttal.
Go ahead, Bob.
I was just going to say, just to go back to the billboard thing, I think that I think metrics have been misinterpreted for a while, because whether or not we have technology, if you go to a Pattison group and say, I'd like to buy a billboard, they're going to tell you how many eyeballs you're going to get. And I have seen many a marketer, many an advertising agency go back to the client and say, this is your return on investment, it's X number of eyeballs. Last I checked, the eyeballs aren't what pays the bill. So I think that the ROI question goes far beyond social. I think social is the question du jour, but I think if we're going to be really drilling down on ROI, it's got to be that we need to start looking at those activities across the board, and what their impact is, and how they draw that line to the purest definition of ROI.
We're going to get into an argument of correlation versus causation here, I think. So maybe, Bob, that's for our next debate.
There you go.
So let's move on to statement number 2. And just a note to our attendees, since we have a manageable size group today, if you do have a question and you want to chime in, you can also click on the raise your hand, and I can unmute your microphone and you can participate and get into this discussion. But we're going to go to statement number 2, social media does not need ROI. And we're going to start again with Judi.
Great. So, and I think, we've been kind of just alluding to this a little bit, and on these different types of definitions, and whether we agree or not that ROI has different definitions, I will still debate that at this particular juncture in business, it does. And based on the accounting perspective of ROI, social media doesn't need ROI by itself. And the reason I say that is that social media is a single tactic that needs to be immersed in an overall strategy. You don't just do social media. And I know that there are companies out there or individuals out there who think that if I just did Facebook, or if I just did Twitter, I would get all this awareness, or I would get all this reach. But social media needs to be one of the pillars that is put into your overarching marketing or communications or customer service strategy. And so as a single tactic, it may contribute to a lift in your results. It may contribute to making something else a bit better, but at the end of the day, it's a single tactic, and ROI is very rarely the result of a single tactic, but rather one of a full strategy. And so I just argue that really it's looking at the combined benefits of your social approach with everything else that you're doing, marketing, advertising, your call center, your salespeople on the ground, putting that all together under a specific theme or a specific program, that's where you're going to see ROI from that accounting perspective, which is really, at the end of the day, the question that we're asking.
Sam?
Again, this is going to be one of those, and I think this is pretty common with any conversation that Judi and I have ever had. I agree, but I don't really agree. You know, I mean, of course, social media requires ROI. Every business function does. I think it comes down to that definition and how we're looking at it. For me, social media ROI is the wrong term, and we've got to stop using it. I get frustrated, and with all due respect to my friend Olivier Blanchard, who wrote the book Social Media ROI, great book. We have to get rid of the term. What it really is what social media does is contribute to the business's bottom line. So it'll either, getting back to that causation argument, what it does is it contributes to either increasing your cost to acquire to acquire customers, or decreases those costs to acquire, or it will help you with retention, or it will improve your customer service response times, for example, or the number of positive brand mentions from a PR perspective. Those are all metrics that I guess is going to be a recurring theme from the sounds of it in this debate. So when you look at it in my perspective, social media ROI is not the business's ROI. So we have to stop trying to make the two work together and go back to using social media metrics and business metrics and how does that contribute. I know me personally within our organization, what we do is something called KPI metrics. We take a look at all of the touch points that a business has with its customers, and then we measure what's the effect of those engagements to the customer's lifetime value. And when we start looking at the impact to life, impact is a bad word. Little funny story, slightly as an aside here, I've got an editor, and every time I use the word impact, she gets all crazy on me. It's either affect or effect. Impact is for molars, apparently. So every time I say the word impact, if you notice me cringing, it's because I feel that I'm getting slapped in the back of the head. So for me, what's the effect of those engagements, positively or negatively, on the lifetime value of a customer, right? And that's where we start to get into end measurements with social media ROI. But we got to stop using that term. So that's my thought on it.
So Sam, it sounds like you're agreeing with me.
You know what? I would have a hard time disagreeing with you. Like I said at the beginning with this, social media does not need ROI. However, and I think this is where we're going to really get into one of the upcoming questions if we stick to the schedule that we had talked about, is it doesn't need it, but it needs to be dictated by it, right? And so, and this is where my issue is not does it need it or not, it's the term. I think it needs it. I think we need to be focused on ROI, because and the reason that I'm making that point specifically, besides playing devil's advocate to you, is that when too many marketers today are making judgments on what campaigns to run or what campaigns are successful by means or by measurements or by effect that have nothing to do with its contribution to the business's ROI. And I think that's a mistake. And so when I say that business does not need ROI, I don't think it needs the term ROI, but I think it needs the concept of ROI and how it impacts. Do you agree with that?
I would say that I do agree with that. I think that is absolutely one of the challenges. In both directions, I think there are times when unfortunately, some marketers, some strategists aren't able to use ROI as a driving force for how they're going to design a social approach. I think the reverse is also true. I think there are times when the asker, whether it's a client, a brand, a manager, a director, or a VP, asking for the program to come forward, they don't, I don't know how to put this in a way that they may not know how to ask the question. They may not know what they expect the outcome to be. And so there are times, I think, where there is value in saying we may not use ROI as the driver because we are testing campaign X. And I know it's hard to test in social, but sometimes you still need to hold the hand of people and you still need to walk them through tests or prototype activities so that they at least start to get a handle on what am I asking for and how will this drive to ROI. So that particular project or program may not be driven by ROI, but it is meant to lay the foundation for something larger that that will help everybody understand a bit better and then create a bigger program.
And so for the record, you agree with me?
No, I think you agreed with me first.
No, I changed it so that you would agree with me.
Oh, I see. I see. A little manipulative.
We have an audience member who wanted to chime in. I'm going to Kartik. I unmute your audio if you want to speak up for yourself. If not, I can say it for you. But you're unmuted. Oh, he doesn't have a mic. Okay. Kartik was saying that he thinks the term Sam is looking for is success metrics and benchmarks.
Well, benchmarks is certainly, that's a great point. Thank you for that. Benchmarks is part of metrics. You know what I mean? So once you can measure something, but you're going to have to either establish a benchmark goal or set your benchmarks based on your activity and then measure against them time over time. And what's the success? You know what I mean? I don't like the term success as much as I do benchmark, because success is very relative term. You know, benchmarks are hard facts. It either is or isn't. It's a goal I'm after, or it's what I've already achieved and what I want to beat. You know, or I guess go down depending upon, you know, what you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. So that's a great point. Thanks for interjecting.
I also think goals and benchmarks are slightly different. I mean, goals ideally is what we want to achieve. Benchmarks are traditionally based on historical data and what we could achieve. So kind of going back to that idea of building those prototype programs that will allow us to establish those benchmarks. What I think is also important to say is that sometimes you're going to find those benchmarks, and in finding those benchmarks, you'll realize that's not the program for us because that benchmark is just not enough for us to hit that goal. And though we may want to stretch that benchmark, and then over time maybe we can improve it, there may be times where, you know what, that benchmark is all you got. I mean, if you take the engine of a car and it goes to 200 miles an hour, that's how they built the engine. It's not going to 210. You're going to blow it up. So sometimes that benchmark just may not be enough, and that's where you need to make an intelligent decision to say we're not going to pursue that particular initiative.
So let's move on to statement number 3. When setting goals for social media efforts, all should be set to reflect the desired ROI and bottom line outcomes. And we're going to start with, well, just try to, Sam on this one.
All right. And this might be a bit of a play on words. But I do believe that you need to focus on that. The goal of every business function, as I had previously stated, regardless of what function you're in, if you're in PR, customer service, sales, after-sales support, your goals, your departmental goals, must be aligned with the goals of the business. Now, what you're measuring is not necessarily the same thing. So a business, at the end of the day, is about its revenue and its cost, right? So it is about what is the ROI. If you're a business, we're not talking about nonprofits in this particular case. So we're going to assume that everybody's out for profit if you're a for-profit business. So for me, it really is about that alignment. And without that alignment, resources typically are allocated to projects that may or may not drive the most effective return. And I think this is where we end up losing a lot of opportunities, or we get a lot of wasted cost or wasted budget dollars. They go down to something where I think this is what I want, or I think this is going to give me the highest measurement or the highest sales. So if I may want to put on a Twitter campaign as a customer acquisition campaign, I may actually drive some sales, right? And I can say, well, look, I had 3 days of, 5 hours a day on Twitter. Twitter is free. So let's say 2 days of prep, 5 days of engagement, 1 day of reporting. That's, 5, 6, 8 days. So 8 days of effort in total generated X number of sales. Now, were those profitable sales? Were they long-term potential customers if you were able to generate sales from that? So what I'm trying to point out here is that in isolation, you really need to look for, you can't. You need to look at its contribution to the bottom line. So the key here for me is the understanding of how social media activities will affect positively or negatively the goals of the business. And I think that's the filter that needs to be applied. Judi, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll take your opening statement. I agree, and I only slightly disagree, to be fair with you. I think that one of the challenges with saying that every goal for social media needs to be linked to ROI is, and this is again based on observation, people are looking at some of the things that we are saying, that we are reading, and they're saying, and it's the silver bullet. So when someone says, okay, social media has to drive ROI, then they're siloed on driving the social media interaction to deliver a revenue or a profit number, and I think that is a mistake. I think social media can absolutely be a tool for sales and revenue. I've seen it happen. I've led projects that have delivered on that and delivered some positive ROI in that accounting definition. But it also needs to be used in other circumstances that don't necessarily deliver that bottom line ROI, but deliver those KPIs, those metrics, those benchmarks through communications, customer service, customer experience. And if that is an important part of your social media strategy, then to take the individual who's in charge of that and say, now drive ROI and push that, you're going to break the value of the social interaction. I think social media savvy consumers are they're excited to interact with their favorite brands, and I've seen stats that say no consumer wants to talk to you, Mr. Brand, and I've seen stats that say consumers love it. I don't think there's a huge population of social media consumers who absolutely want to have dialogues with their brands, but there are with their favorite brands, but there are brands that do a good job. Starbucks, Banff Squirrel, Tom's Shoes, they start to have these interactions, things that matter. I want to be part of that community. As a consumer on social, I want to be part of your community. I may want to have special offers at some point, but I don't want you to come to me and continuously berate me with your sales pitch. So my challenge is not that ROI should not be a part of driving the social approach. My challenge is the setting the stage for that, because there are a lot of individuals who will listen to that and take it as gospel, and then it is literally, and you can pull up Twitter accounts that do this, it's an old car sales pitch. And that's not going to work in social. It's not going to work with your consumers, and then it'll start affecting your other departments, communications and PR, who are needing, who don't need the bad press, but it starts to become really bad press on social.
I don't know. I just, based on what you said, I think when you take a look at the actual question itself, or the statement, is that when setting goals for social media efforts, all must be set to reflect the desired ROI. So I guess that means, I guess we can argue different interpretations of that statement. You do need to set them up to the desired ROI and bottom line outcomes, but again, it's just that terminology, which yes. I'm hoping is going to be something that anybody who's watching this will take away. You don't set it up for ROI necessarily. You're going to set it up to achieve a particular metric, a particular benchmark that correlates to a positive impact on your bottom line, or a positive impact on reducing, costs or increasing customers or whatever that happens to be. So, and I think this is where I get back to my concept of KPI mapping and really mapping all of your touch points across the organization to one end result. And so I do believe that, like any business, any business silo, any business function, you do need to set ROI as your goals, but not necessarily your immediate goals, right? You set them to say, these are going to be my short-term measurements. And if I don't know, if I'm starting off, well, then let's at least understand where we want to go. Let's understand these metrics, and let's understand or create an infrastructure where I'm measuring these metrics to the effect on the bottom line. And then after 3 months, 6 months, a year, I've got some kind of a knowledge base to say these types of activities drive, or correlate to this type of a bottom line impact. These types of activities in social don't. And so that's why I took the agree position here, because I do agree that you need to set those bottom line outcomes. Just understand that it's not the immediate result or the immediate measurement out of your activity. You have to go one step further. And I'm hoping that we are, I guess, sophisticated enough, or eventually we're becoming sophisticated enough that marketers are going to start to see this and not be so myopic about social media and its immediate impact on the bottom line.
And I agree. I think that it is.
See what I did there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is, to me, that is the biggest challenge. And when we use the wrong term to define what we're trying to do, that's where we're going to start getting lost. We're going to be either we'll be set up for failure, or we just won't be, or we'll be happy not delivering what we think we should be delivering. So either way, that doesn't work. We have to use the right terms, metrics, KPIs, and how they line up. And just to use a different function, a different organizational function that does exactly that. If you think about a good HR team, they will have an organizational goal, and your organizational goals will have ROI. And then the question is, how does each function deliver on that, and how does each individual deliver to the function that then delivers to the business objective? And that's how HR works. We can do that in marketing, and we can do that in communications. How do each of these tactics contribute back to the function's goal, which then contribute back to the organization's goal? It is absolutely doable, and we need to use the right terms so that when we start outlining what the goals actually are, then we start delivering on those goals and we start seeing the real correlation.
No, I agree, and one of the reasons why this debate, discussion, whatever, is called the true nature of social media ROI. And let's identify exactly what it is, and if it means changing the term or deleting the term or understanding your place within the calculation of ROI, then so be it. Let's get to that point and not necessarily argue is there or isn't there, but how does social media play into that ROI? And I think that's a much more useful conversation for marketers and those that call themselves social media marketers to have when it comes to justifying their existence or the budgets that they're seeking. It'll be a much easier argument to have or conversation to have with the CFO, I think.
Absolutely.
We have Kadi. Kadi, do you have a microphone on you? Would you like to share what your question right there?
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you great.
Yeah.
Good morning. Okay, so this is my question. Did you just want me to read the question out loud?
Yeah, go ahead. Or you can be part of the conversation.
Okay. I was recently hired on by a company, wonderful company, love them, love what they're about. And when they delivered the contract to me to sign on with them, inside of the contract, they wanted me to basically guarantee a set number of users of app downloads within a 6-month period of my work with them. And my job description is basically to create social strategy and to carry out community and social marketing strategies online, generate discussions, meet new people, do blogger outreach, and I'm trying to make them understand that just because I'm doing all of this work and putting in all of these hours, it's not going to necessarily lead to, say, 500,000 app downloads, within that 6-month period of time. And I think because they're former employees of Google, they are so very numbers focused that they're having a hard time understanding when I'm trying to explain to them what the focus and the purpose of social media is. They say they get it, yet they still want me to commit to a number. I've never been asked to do that before, and so I'm kind of hoping that you guys can help me figure out how to make them understand how to go about responding to them. That's going to help them understand that I think it's just kind of unrealistic and ridiculous.
So, Kadi, I'm gonna mute you for the moment because of the background noise. But Sam and Judi, you want to respond? Sam,
Judi, you can start.
Oh, okay, Judi.
Yeah. Okay. So Kadi, I think I've been in similar. I have been in similar situations, and I think what you need to do, and a little bit to the conversation that Sam and I have been having, is helping them do a little bit of KPI mapping. So what is it? What are the tangibles, if you will? What are the deliverables that you will be able to put out? What is the result of those deliverables? So you may say we're going to reach X number of people, or we're going to reach X number of communities, or we're going to engage X number of influencers or advocates. You do need to set it in a numbers term, and what you can say is we can draw a line between how those people will help us achieve that goal. And it may not be a 6-month goal, but perhaps to break that down into chunks and showcase how those communities you're going to interact with will help to drive to that outcome that they are looking for. I think that it becomes a little bit of homework on your part, maybe even prior to the contract being signed, but that helps frame really what you will do, really what the outcomes and the benefits of your work will be, and then how, at what point you end and someone else starts, but that there's a real connection and a tight connection in the key metrics that you're looking at, and then kind of handing off to whoever else needs to do other things. So I think you just need to tie it into their end goal.
Yeah, and I'll reiterate that. Quite frankly, I would never sign a contract with a company that says you need to do X. I mean, if you're sales, I can understand that, say that you're going to drive in so much revenue or you're compensated based on it. But with social, it's a little bit different because it really, and Judy's not going to believe that I'm saying this, but it really is about relationship building. And relationship building and connecting people and identifying opportunities that will eventually lead to something. So when it comes to strategy, and I have the good fortune that I don't work for a company, companies hire me to do this, and one of the challenges I've always had is educating them on this very issue. And the approach that I've taken is, well, when you hire an SEO company, it's rare that, well, actually I shouldn't say it's rare because a lot of people do, but you shouldn't hire an SEO company that guarantees you results because it's not possible, right? There are too many factors that go into that. What you need to do is identify how they do the work and ensure that they're doing it in such a way that's going to give you the best opportunity possible to succeed, and that they have the right metrics to show you this is what I've done, this is what was successful, this is what wasn't successful, and then this is what we're going to do. So to reiterate Judy's point on the KPI mapping, which is, as I said earlier, something that we've been quite successful at doing in terms of selling and getting customers to understand the value of this, is I would change the definitions. I would say, listen, social media by itself, if this is what you want, if you want it as a pure acquisition effort or as an acquisition tactic, and that's what you're investing in, understand that sales can't work without marketing, and that you're not going to keep a customer happy and get retention unless you got customer service and product development involved. Similarly, social media has to be part of this. So here's my strategy to you, and in your strategy, show them to use our terms from before, create your metrics and your benchmarks. Show how what you will do is you will identify these people. This is how you're going to filter the conversations. This is how you're going to funnel conversations to different people, and here's how you're going to measure that, right? Because what I get a lot of times is that marketers will say is I can drive qualified leads, but it's up to the salesperson to close it. It doesn't mean that the leads that I've delivered aren't great. So there goes another argument that maybe we could have here one day.
Yeah.
Is who's really responsible for the sale? Is it the marketing team driving qualified leads, or is it the sales team who actually converts the lead? The goal of social media is not necessarily to convert the lead. It's to nurture the market. It's to identify qualified leads, right, and then to hand them off. So there's one great product that I'm working with right now. It's called Jugnoo, Jugnoo. And if you take a look at that application, they're leading the way right now because they're allowing a social media marketer or community manager or anybody for that matter to identify trends in conversations, filter them based on type of engagement, PR, brand reputation management, customer service, research, whatever, and then actually assign those tweets and those groups of conversations to somebody with a particular goal and an end date that has to get signed off, that this was completed or not completed. So now, as a marketer engaging in social media, what I can say is, look, I've identified these 5 PR issues, these 10 leads, these 10 customer service issues. Now I'm going to show you how the rest of the organization contributed to that identification being led to a positive outcome. And so you become a hub as opposed to the start and the end of that measurement. So it's a little bit about the measurement education that you have to give them, the KPI mapping, and having the right tool. Jugnoo is one, Jugnoo is one that I would recommend. I hope that helps.
Sam, thank you. Kushi, I just unmuted you. Did you want to chime in? Okay, no, I don't think so. So we only have 15 minutes left. We want to get on to statement 4. Running social media efforts with ROI in mind will negatively affect the results. And we're going to start with Judi.
All right. So just to go back to that last question, and I kind of made this point there, if we now pigeonhole that our view for social media efforts is ROI in the definition of the accounting term, revenue minus cost over cost, then yes, results can and more than likely will be detrimental to the brand. Your social consumer is expecting authenticity, integrity, honesty, and if your only focus when you're running social approach is I want to sell something to absolutely everybody that I am interacting with, that kind of humanity is it's going to be gone. You're going to be working like the old car sales guy, and you know what? That old car sales guy is doing a phenomenal job. He or she, my apologies, is absolutely hitting targets and making sales and moving cars off the lot. But if you're driving to ROI, if that is all you are doing, it will not generate long-term loyalty to the brand. And loyalty is kind of that elusive thing that everybody wants, that all the brands want. I want a loyal consumer base. I want that retention. I want people to love me as a brand so that they can forgive me and they can buy again and they can refer me. So that drive to ROI is not guaranteeing that generation of long-term loyalty. But on the flip side, if you use brand humanity and genuine caring, those individuals, those human beings that are working for you in the brand, connecting with other human beings, that can generate ROI. So, so where ROI doesn't necessarily generate loyalty, I think loyalty over time will generate ROI, as well as longevity for your brand. So if you want to be around for, 2, 3, 4 years, then yes, drive to ROI, make a killing, do as much as you can right off the bat, and use all your channels, including social. If you want to be around like Coca-Cola for over 100 years, like Ford for over 100 years, it's time to kind of really think about the humanity in the brand. There are people that work for you. There are people that buy from you. Let people be people and build those relationships. ROI needs to kind of be there. No one expects a company not to make money, so it's okay to say, I'd like to have a few sales out of this. But if you're going into every single engagement in the social world and saying, I want to sell something, you might sell something today, but chances are no one's going to connect with you again. So I think in the long run, it's not the right approach.
Judi,
I'm going to disagree with you, Lloyd.
Well, Judi, I just want to say that Yeah. Connie agrees with you very strongly, Judy. So just wanted to let you know that.
Okay.
But Sam, we're gonna let you go ahead now.
You're vetoed, Sam.
Well, I'm gonna. Yeah, that's it. I'm already in the hole. The point that I would like to make is that first of all, I'm going to disagree with you that loyalty always equals long-term profit and long-term longevity of a business. You can have a lot of loyal customers who are not profitable customers, right? And I can think of a few brands that are like that. You really, at the end of the day, regardless of how loyal or not loyal your customers are, you could have a very high churn, right? If you're getting new customers all the time and all those new customers are profitable, even though you're losing a lot of them, you can still be profitable. You might not be a well-loved brand, but you're making money. So you really can't associate always, again, correlation and causation. You have to really see the difference there. So the approach that I'd like to take to this is that really is more than one way to skin a cat. And the problem that I have with this statement is running social media efforts with ROI results in mind will negatively affect the results. Yes, if you look at it with just that filter to say, I'm going to make money and everything I say is going to be asking for money, I agree. The problem, though, is that the opposite of that, if you don't take this statement as fact, the opposite of that is a lot of wishy-washy, and I'm putting on my CEO hat right now, a lot of wishy-washy brand love. And that's great. It's a lot of feel-good. It's a lot of kumbaya. But at the end of the day, you have to understand that that's got to lead somewhere. So the point that I'd like to make here is, again, we need to do that, but we need to have an eye on where it's going. So focus on ROI when you're planning these does not replace a focus on relationship building. And I think a lot of times people say it's one or the other, and it's not. What a focus on ROI can do for a smart marketer, especially a smart social media marketer, is it acts as a filter to choosing the optimal approach. The third point that I've got in my slide there is, take a look at customer service. Let's get right out of social media, for example. There are two different tactics or potentially two different software that you could buy to run your call center or whoever's managing your customer support. At the end of the day, each one of them could generate the same results in terms of happy customers. So number of calls come in, number of calls addressed in less than 2 minutes, with a positive result. One of them costs you $100,000, the other one costs you $10,000. You know what I mean? There's a different impact on the ROI, even though the end result in terms of the metric, meaning happy customers, X number within 2 minutes or less, are the same. So this is why I do believe that ROI has to be the focus, or at least the filter, in going into all of these. It can't be subservient to the relationship building. At the end of the day, every function, no matter what that function is a business function. And to align your goals to that of the business, right? We can talk all we want, but at the end of the day, like the question that just came in, how do I tell the guys who hire me, that I'm not going to deliver XXX? Well, that's how you do it. You say that, I'm not going to not pay attention to those end results, but here's the path that's going to take to get there. So this is where, like I said, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Brand engagement through social media is really about relationship building, but as with sales, customer service, whatever, no business can benefit no business benefit can be measured without an understanding of that effect on the bottom line. So you have to have that focus.
But I think, Sam, I think that I agree with you that you need that filter. And I think that anybody who is in business, no matter what chair they're filling in the organization, has to have a sense for the business's goals and end results, and that ROI. At the end of the day, we don't hit an ROI number, chances are some people are not going to have a paycheck. So that's understandable. But I think that we are at a point in time where the profitable business filter, as important as it is, cannot be the only filter or the priority filter. And I'm not saying that the relationship filter needs to be the priority filter. I am literally saying You need to have people at the table who are able to put both of the filters on the lens and come up with a solution that is going to address what the business needs, while at the same time remembering that we are interacting with people. And I'm trying to remember which president said this, but there was actually a president that said that if you are running business with the sole focus to make money, in the long run you will hurt the community, and if you hurt the community, then what good is that to you, because the community needs to buy your products. And a great example right now that's happening in the U.S. is Walmart. They're a beast. They hit their ROI numbers. Very, very little question around whether or not they're making money. And they are debating now whether or not they're going to open 6 stores in Washington, D.C., because the municipal government is looking to increase the minimum wage. And so they're saying if that's the case, then we're going to pay too much to our employees. We don't want to treat our employees that way. We want to give them this like really low base minimum wage, which isn't even a living wage. So we're not going to open these stores. And so there's this battle going on between this behemoth that is making quite a bit of money, and they will continue to make money whether or not they open those 6 stores. But here's the problem. If the D.C. government isn't able to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, you are now putting however many employees of Walmart in a disadvantage and potentially not even being able to shop at Walmart. So you're taking consumers away instead of trying to help them and allow them an opportunity to actually boost the economy. So we are seeing examples of companies who are solely focused on that drive to ROI, whether it's bricks and mortar stores or social, and we are starting to see the backlash, and we can see it with the economy now. That sole focused drive to business profit isn't going to work in the long run in the community for loyalty, but also just to boost a global economy.
Well, Judy, if I can,
I didn't realize you were a socialist.
Judy, if I can chime in, because you're talking about my backyard here, and that's something that's been very prevalent in the news, and not defending Walmart, but something that is left out of the discussion a lot about that what's going on is that the law the council wants to pass is only applicable to stores that have like 75,000 square feet, and it's only applicable to Walmart, and it doesn't address everybody else in all the other stores. So it's a very small, actually, select number of employees that would benefit from this living wage, where the entire city needs to benefit from it. But it's just something that's left out of the discussion. And
but again, in isolation, this is where we start to have these problems. To criticize a company like Walmart, and I'm not a big Walmart supporter, mostly because of what people wear when they go to Walmart, and ends up all over my Facebook page. But I'm not a big supporter of them. However, when you start taking a look at or criticizing companies that are out there just to make a buck, you're ignoring what they do for the community. They're employing people that might not have otherwise been employed, especially in a depressed economy the way that we are now. The number of people that they give jobs to might not have had a job otherwise. What they do in terms of providing goods at a reasonable price or at a lower price, forget quality for a second, they make things affordable to people who might not otherwise have been able to buy it. What contribution do they make to the local community? The investments that they make in culture or in other service organizations within those communities. I know our local Walmart puts a lot of dollars into local kids' sports and things like that. So, I mean, you can't really fault a company for looking for ROI. It's the way that you get there, right? And what you do to get there is the key. And this is why I'm always saying that social media ROI is the same thing. Don't yell at people like me when you hire me, that's what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to build your business. Now, there is a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it, but it's not the fault of ROI. It's the smarts of the people managing it in terms of how to get there.
And this may be a debate
Judy, I'm sorry, we're at the top of the hour, and I want to, but why don't you each take a minute to, and we'll start with you, Judy, just to your last points and what you want to get across. Go ahead.
Sure. Well, thanks, Bob. Great conversation, and I think Sam and I could go on for a while. But really, for me, the long and short of this is ROI needs to be, whether we call it profit or ROI or rate of return, it needs to be it's got to be a foundation. We're all in business, and as I've said, the consumer is not expecting a business not to make money, so that's okay. But to Sam's just latest point, there are people in businesses who do not, maybe they don't have enough training, maybe they don't have enough understanding, maybe they're set up with competitive goals for themselves in terms of how they're going to hit their bonus, and when you tell them focus on ROI to deliver your social approach, that's where the wheels fall off, and you start getting faced in the social environment with people who are literally taking the old car salesman approach. It doesn't mean we have a problem with brands that are looking for ROI. That's great. It is all about how they deliver that, and we are in a very social world. We are all connected. As a communicator, as a PR professional, I think we would be really remiss if we did not educate brands that we work with to say, you need to take a human approach in the social space. Whether or not you hit ROI today is one thing. If you want the next PR crisis, go ahead and drive for the sale on social. But at the end of the day, social is social, ROI is ROI. They do come together, but you need to take a human approach to bridge the gap.
Sam, your last thoughts?
Yeah, again, I'm going to disagree with that, because I do believe that one of the reasons why we're having this debate and why this debate is raging is because social media marketers are trying to make that point. And they're not getting the funding that they want. They're not getting hired. Their businesses are firing agencies and hiring new agencies because they're not delivering, or they're not connecting what that engagement is doing to what the, I guess, the bottom line is. Because at the end of the day, that's how shareholders, stakeholders, and banks make decisions. It's a reality of life. We need to deal with it. So I take a different approach. So the final comment I'd like to make is how I started this off. It's the term social media ROI that has to be done away with. Let's take a look at what engagement, but then be sure you can back this up. How do these engagements affect the bottom line, positively or negatively? Use the right tools to be able to measure that and to manage that transaction path, that communication path from you in the social network to those internally within your organization to the accounting spreadsheet. So change that, but don't blame profit. Don't blame the achievement of ROI. Really look at your contribution to it. And if you do that, I think we'll all be much more successful.
Sam and Judi, thank you very much. I think it was a lively discussion, and actually some great input from the audience, and we're getting some great thank yous as well from the audience. Thank you very much. For the attendees, as you leave the webinar, you'll be prompted to do a quick survey. Please just take 30 seconds. It'll help us, prepare and improve for the following seminars. The session has been recorded, and we will be posting it on the website on Friday, most likely. We have with the audio and the slides. And we will likely have our next session in about 4 or 5 weeks, as majority of people take August off for vacation time. And thank you very much for joining us. Thank you again, Sam and Judi. And you can reach Sam and Judi online. Sam at Sam Fiorella on Twitter, and Judi is Chief Lemonhead on Twitter as well. Again, thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Bob. Bye, guys.